I received a question. Somebody asked me what styles of martial arts do I teach. I recently relabeled um, the techniques that I have to share. I used to use like traditional styles as a way of trying to communicate to the public that this is what I have to teach. But I decided to completely steer away from that and come up with my own labels. So then I do not encourage people to basically be stereotyping certain styles and things like that, and just like creating a whole misunderstanding of the martial arts into believing that this style is better than that style and all this other nonsense. So I don't promote that, separating different ways in the styles. So what I decided to do is just relabel the different aspects of the combative encounterment that I teach. So this is what I have so far. This is what I offer here and what I train people. Number one is bare knuckle Western boxing techniques. So it's not just regular boxing. I mean, we don't train with the gloves. We train with no gloves. We train for street combat, street survival, and basically taking away the gloves, taking away the wrist wraps, and taking away all those rules and regulations that that you find within the boxing ring. It creates an entirely different dynamic. Just different types of blocking techniques, different types of striking techniques. The difference between having a huge glove on opposed to having bare knuckles. So I teach the bare knuckle Western boxing techniques. I say Western boxing because I'm talking about what you see on TV in the ring, like Mayweather and Pacquiao and Muhammad Ali and Evander Holyfield. This is like America's boxing, This is the Western boxing, and how they move and how they punch and how they block and how efficient they are. That's what I teach. But the difference is bare knuckle, and that makes a big difference. And basically the aspect of applying it onto the streets where you're not bound by the rules and regulations within that boxing ring. So I teach that. Number two will be bare knuckle kickboxing techniques. So basically it will just be the boxing integrated with the kicks. So it's just basically you're getting closer and closer to more of a full expression. So when I say kickboxing, I'm still talking about the Western kickboxing where they have like kickboxing tournaments. But the difference is that, once again, it's bare knuckle. Another difference is that we will be wearing shoes because we'll be wearing shoes outside, and that's what we're going to be used to our advantage. So it will be bare knuckles with shoes while we train in those techniques. Number three will be bare knuckle powerful fist techniques. Powerful fist techniques, I decided to call it that. I used to say it's the Chole Phut Kung Fu, but it's not that. I'm not going to call it that anymore. It's going to call it the powerful fist techniques. And those are basically like fully concentrating on like the power development in the upper body, like learning like very powerful uppercuts and haymakers and hooks, just like very powerful movements that are designed to knock somebody out and create a lot of damage. So we focus on that. Number four will be bare knuckle close quarter fist techniques. So that will be I used to call that like inspired by Wing Chun, but I'm not going to call that anymore. That's basically like the short range combat where they're right in your face and just basically learning like very effective and practical and quick close quarter techniques, without gloves or nothing like that, bare knuckles. So it's basically like focusing on like perfecting like a certain way of doing a jab and a cross, like perfecting that, like the straight line attacks, close quarter, like very up front, right in your face, where they're like almost able to grab you. That's the close quarter that we focus on as well. All right, number five will be focus on elbows and knee striking techniques. I used to label that as like the Muay Thai, but I don't do that anymore. Just basically focusing on using your elbows and your knees as ways of self-defense and basically like defending yourself in great danger. Elbows and knee strikes and focusing on perfecting those techniques. Alright, what else we work on? Number six will be tactical kicking techniques. I used to call that like inspired by Taekwondo, but I don't do that anymore. Tactical kicking techniques are mainly techniques where you don't, where it's going to be most efficient for combat. Um, there's going to be some high kicks, but not too much. But there's going to be a lot of kicking techniques that are aimed at like self-defense. A lot of the kicks are below the kneecap. Um, just all the ranges, all the different types of kicks that we work on. Some jumping kicks, but not too many. But mainly all these kicks are going to be very practical for your survival. So I call that tactical kicking techniques. Number 7 would be pressure points. We train in pressure points, basically showing you different areas of the body that you could apply pressure in order to gain control of the person that is trying to hurt you. Number 8 will be joint lock control techniques. These will be like utilizing joint locks in order to control the person, in order to potentially make that person go onto the ground or escort that person out of a certain location. So we work on those type of techniques. Number 9 will be lethal hand striking techniques. So those will be like techniques where you will pinpoint very vital areas of the body in order to create like an immense amount of pain and damage in order to survive a very threatening situation. So we're talking about like things such as like certain chokes and certain eye gouge techniques and certain things like that that will really help you survive. All right. We also work on number 10, lethal choking techniques. So we'll show you certain chokes that will basically take the life away from the person that's trying to hurt you if it really gets that serious. Number 11 will be defense against all weapons. So what I teach is basically people that are trying to hurt you that have a weapon, and then you need to defend yourself when you don't have a weapon. So they might have a stick, they might have a baton, they might have a nunchuck, they might have a knife, they might have a gun. They might have a bat, they might have a brick. I'm gonna teach you techniques in order to survive those situations when you're unarmed. All right, and then what else I teach is number 12, firearms training for those who have the concealed carry license. So those people that have the concealed carry license will work on firearms techniques that will we'll be integrating those techniques into everything that I just mentioned. So basically being able to put everything together as a whole. So being able to take out that firearm whenever it is necessary for you to take it out in order to defend yourself. You might be in a situation where you're wrestling around with somebody and then all of a sudden you need to draw your firearm. So we work on those types of techniques as well. All right. And then number 13 will be women's ground survival tactics. These are mainly for just women in order to help them learn effective methods to prevent a rape situation where somebody's trying to rape them and things like that. Special ground techniques that are only designed for women to learn. So that's pretty much what I have so far of what I'm offering, and that's what I decided to come up with these different labels in order to promote people to kind of get away from all this segregation by race and culture and all this nonsense, rather than like saying, oh, I teach karate and jiu-jitsu and Chinese martial arts and Aikido and Tai Chi and all this nonsense. Is just kind of like promoting people to kind of to reinforce racism in a way and segregation. And I want to step away from that. I want to take the racial aspect out of it and just look at the combative situation more from a scientific standpoint. Coming from close quarter combat, to like weapons training, to like the kicking range, to the elbow and knee striking range, to the punching range, to the close quarter range, to the joint lock manipulation range, to like, potentially the grappling range. It's like working on all those sort of techniques in order to survive a certain situation. There's gonna be more added to the list. I just haven't really come up with the exact. This is just the basic outline right now, but I'm gonna add more to it. As far as even right now, There's going to be techniques that I'm going to teach where, preventing somebody from taking you to the ground. So that's going to be another set of techniques that we're going to be working on as well. So as far as weapons are concerned, I'm mainly going to be focusing on the firearms for those people that have the concealed carry license. But if they don't have it, we're not going to be working on those techniques. And as far as weapons are concerned, I'm not really going to be teaching weapons to people, because it's against the law to have weapons out there to begin with. So, that's not approved by the law for self-defense. So I'm not going to really teach that, because then I'm encouraging people to break the law by carrying weapons around, with them. If I teach somebody how to use a nunchuck, what's the point of learning how to use it if you're not even going to carry it? And if you carry it, it's against the law. So I'm not even going to deal with that. I'm just going to stick to the unarmed combat and to the firearms for the people that have the license. And that's what I'm going to stick to. But I will teach people how to defend against weapons if somebody's trying to hurt them with a weapon and they don't have a weapon themselves. So that's pretty much what it is right there. And then number 2, he asked if any of my students compete in any tournaments. No, they do not. I don't encourage that in any way, shape, or form. I train for reality-based combat, for survival, not for competition, not for sport. So that's one of the main differences of this school compared to a lot of the other places that you'll find out there. Number 3, he said, do I have a ranking system? I recently abolished the ranking system because it wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go. But now I reinstated a certification process to become basically a martial arts instructor. It's basically just, I call it the Sifu certification, which means teacher, father in martial arts, in Chinese martial arts. But basically, I have a certification process to become Sifu. And I went over it in the other video, but basically it's going along the requirements to obtain a concealed carry license for the state of Illinois. It's going along those guidelines in addition to more that's being expected. I'll quickly go over it right now. You need to be at least 21 years old. You need to fulfill the fitness requirements for this school. There's a list of exercises that you're gonna have to complete for your age and gender. There's gonna be you have to study within this school for 5 years, at least 3 times per week. So it's either in the school directly with me or online via Skype. You have to have a valid FOID card. That's if you live in Illinois, but if you live somewhere else, you might not even need that. You must possess a concealed carry license and firearm. You must possess a CPR certification. You must agree not to compete in sport fighting competitions. You must agree not to teach martial art techniques. You must agree to teach martial art techniques responsibly by evaluating the spiritual growth of each student as he or she progresses. You must agree not to teach martial art techniques to the entire general public online, but to only conduct privately regulated lessons directly to each student. You must agree not to intake alcoholic beverages. You must agree not to intake illegal drugs, which includes marijuana. You must study and understand the Tao Te Ching. You must study and understand the power of now. You must study and understand at least 10 books related to the spiritual aspects of the martial arts. And the certification will expire in 5 years. After that, you have to reapply for your concealed carry license, and then you have to retest in the fitness to make sure that you've been maintaining your fitness through these years. So that is what I've decided to do as far as the Sifu certification is concerned. That's only for the people that have that interest. But if they don't have that interest, you just train and just enjoy the training for what it is. But for some people that want that extra little challenge, I have that established for this school. So that's what my quick little answers for what you have to ask, and that's pretty much what it is. And things probably will change in the future, just like how the world changes. Just recently they didn't allow concealed carry in Chicago, but now they will be allowing it. So the laws change, and as the laws change, FMK will change with the law as well. So say, for example, hypothetically, they said, okay, people are allowed to carry katanas out there now. Then, hey, then we might start training and using the katana more often. But right now, it's the firearms that they are saying that we're allowed to have, so we're going to definitely integrate that into our way of self-defense. And just basically, things will change. I mean, they have certain things that you're not, certain places that you're not allowed to go with the firearm, so we're gonna have to prepare for that as well. Meaning, you can't have a firearm in a school, you can't have a firearm in a train or in a bus, you can't have a firearm on an airplane, you can't have, certain places that you can't go with the firearm, so you have to prepare to be able to survive in those situations without a firearm. So we're gonna make sure that we go through all that type of training.